Okay. Is Jake coming? I don't know, I told him like 3 times.
The baby's crying. He can't get to the computer.
Yeah.
Babies.
All right.
Okay. It is now 6:01. We'll call the June 18th Planning Commission meeting for the town of Hideout to order. We'll now take a roll call. Glynis,
Here.
Joel. Here. Donna,
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Peter is excused. Chase. Okay, and Tony is here. Next on the agenda is the approval of last month's meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments they would like to make or changes to the minutes as they exist presently?
No.
Okay,
Well, I move that we approve the meeting minutes of May 16th Planning Commission meeting.
I second. Thank you. We'll take a vote. Donna,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, we will accept the meeting minutes of prior month. Next, the lone item on the calendar this month is discussion of an updated concept plan for a potential development called Hideout Point / Wild Horse. Which, Thomas, do you want to start with that?
Yes, I can indeed.
Thank you.
Are you guys ready? I think just for the record, Alicia, we're just seeing the files, Microsoft Explorer files page. We're not seeing the packet or the text yet.
Sorry, I don't know why it's,
Yeah, what's up?
it was up and then it wasn't.
It was up.
Well.
Maybe you just need to click on the packet again.
I tried to, it's hard to see, there we go. Let's try that page. Is that it?
That is it.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so commissioners, I'll walk you through this. If you have any questions along the way, just stop me at any time. For the record, the applicants, the owners of the property are here, Tim and Diane, as are their representative, Jerry, and their architects are on as well. I think Rick and I think you guys, yeah, they're there as well. Okay, so everybody's here in case there are questions as we go along, but certainly maybe it's easier if I kind of walk through this and then maybe some Q&A afterward. You all have seen this once before. It was about a year ago, almost a year ago to the date, I think, that the showings came in for the first concept plan for this site. And so they've actually been doing some extensive amounts of work with regard to design, layout, and just looking at financing, et cetera. And so this is coming back to you with some of the revisions as well as some things that haven't changed. So just as a reminder, this is that 2-acre site that is located really between the Bill Wolf property to the north and Claim subdivision to the south. The driveway that goes up to Bill Wolf's property is essentially the dividing line for the applicant's proposed project, which would be on the west side, closer to SR 248, would be commercial. Again, this 2 acres. And then the other, what is it, about 13 or so acres on the east side, kind of the upslope side, would be residential. That's something that will be coming back to you in the future, but that would be a part of this overall concept to kind of incorporate mixed use, this commercial use with some single family residential up there. If you don't mind scrolling down just a little bit, Alicia, that might help. We walk through this. There you go. So the current zoning is mountain residential, which is 1 unit per acre. Ultimately, with this concept plan, we would need to look at a rezoning down the road for this project. You can see there, if you scroll up just a little bit more, Alicia, the property is right there. in red, and then right below it is an image of an elevation image from 248. That's what it would look like from 248. This, I think when it originally came in, I think we were really talking about a bit of a brew pub. That hasn't changed significantly, but now it's really kind of turned, I think it's a bit more of a restaurant with a pub, or a restaurant and a pub, and maybe 5 retail or commercial areas. The total square feet for this project would be about 15,000. You scroll up to the next page, I'll give a little bit of a better sense of context. So it's the area shaded in red there, the area inside the red property line. That is the full 15-acre site. The area that's kind of shaded is the concept plan site. That's the 2-acre site. You can see that on the north side of this property is the 7 acres that is the town-owned land that is tentatively being reserved for a fire station and public works. And you can see there is a little sliver of land on the south side, kind of that odd-shaped triangle, that there's some additional research, and I'll discuss this in a few minutes, but that is potential, that it looks like that is town-owned land. The reason that is that we're illustrating that's about 1.5 acres is that the applicants are proposing to coordinate with us to maybe utilize some of that land for the ingress component to the ingress component to this project, the access to this project. If you scroll down a bit more, Alicia, you can, that was just a zoomed in section in case you guys couldn't read the map above. So if you scroll down just to the next page, we'll get to the concept plan. This may be a little bit hard to see, but let me see if I can annotate here.
Faces joined.
Alicia, I'm not allowed to annotate yet. I don't know if there's something you need to release on your side, if you can play with that. But essentially, this is oriented to the north, this image, and you can see SR 248 is to the south. You might be able to kind of, oh, here I can now annotate. You can see this is the road that goes up to Bill Wolf's house on the hillside. And this is, of course, the property line for the applicants. The property that I mentioned earlier that the town owns is down here, and they would like to utilize some of that for the entrance driveway that would line up with Miners Way. I'll get to that in just a second. You could see here that we've got a secondary access point up here, which is a requirement by the Wasatch Fire Department. So that would be up closer to Bill Wolf's property. That would be a secondary access point. This would be the first access point. We're still working with the fire department to confirm whether this exact configuration is what they will allow for 2 access points, which is required for commercial development. It could be that this southern one has to move a little bit further to the south or potentially the north and maybe be separated from Miners Way. We don't have that information yet. It's getting into the details. That is just a long way of saying we're working with Clinton Earing and the fire department. With regard to the concept plan, you can see this square is roughly the area where the building would be. So it would be overlooking the lake, overlooking 248 immediately. Let me clear that off because it's a mess. Are there any questions about the site plan just before I continue? We'll come back to this if needed. I just wanted to make sure you guys had a sense of what was being proposed. Again, the building on the SR 248 side, parking on the back side, and 2 access points on the existing driveway to Bill Wolf's house. All right, if no questions.
I have a
Go ahead.
question. It's Joel. Yeah,
Hi.
it's Joel. I have a question. Does there need to be another exit with this being commercial? Maybe you're going to talk about this. I'm not sure. Does there need to be another exit to 248? Or is it just the single entrance and exit from 248 to claim and this commercial development?
our preliminary discussions with the fire department are that it does not require an additional access off of SR 248. We would not get an access off of SR 248 because we don't have enough distance between the claim access point on 248 and this property. I mean, it's pretty much almost one and the same, and they typically require about 1,500 linear feet, so we wouldn't be able to get a secondary access. They wouldn't want us to have one. With regard to fire, they typically need 2 access points. We're working with them. This proposal may not exactly satisfy their requirements, but it's getting close, and we think there are a couple of minor deviations we could do to satisfy those requirements. So to answer your question, not needed, no additional access point is needed off of 248. They'll have to work with William Wolf Way and Miners Way, those 2 roads up there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Alicia, if you don't mind, maybe scrolling to the next page, just some kind of planning issues and concerns that may be for discussion or for information purposes. Again, I pointed out that the town has the land to the north of here, the 7 acres, the triangle for public works and fire. We'll want to make sure that this project and that project are buffered from each other. They're pretty significant. There's a difference in uses, of course, and so we'll want to make sure both are protected. With regard to the proposed use, again, right now, this property is zoned mountain, which is single-family residential, 1 unit per acre. The proposal down the road would be to rezone this to make this viable for commercial development. In support of that, you can see that the most recent community survey does strongly support commercial in the community. We all have long pushed for commercial in the community, so cafes, restaurants, retail, et cetera, is right in line with what the community has indicated that they want. If you scroll down just a little bit, Alicia. I discussed, scroll down to the town-owned land one. I did discuss that in detail. I've got an outline on the following page, but before we get there, the property that is in discussion is 1.49 acres. Again, we're pretty sure that this was deeded by claim to the town, although some of the platting images differ a little from the worded language on the plats. And so we've got to work through that a little bit with Polly. That's something that is not yet finalized, but those discussions are underway. If you scroll down just a little bit more, Alicia, that image is turned clockwise 90 degrees. That really just shows the proposal by the applicant to make a full intersection at Miners Way that leads up to claim. And this is the horizontal one that you're seeing there is William Wolf Way that leads up to the house up there. So this would be an ideal connection because it would be a perfect 90-degree intersection. Again, working with Clint and the fire department to see if that will satisfy our 2 access points or not. If you scroll down a little bit more, Alicia, you can skip the next page because we kind of walked through that with regard to that is the town-owned land down there. You scroll up just a little more. Yeah, so, you know, some of the things that we'll be working with the applicants on in the future are to address some of the environmental issues, the sensitive lands ordinance that is now in place for areas of slope that exceed 30%, protection of existing vegetation to the greatest extent possible. Access, again, we walked through that a little bit. The access for this off of 248 will come from the claim access and then come up William Wolf Way, that driveway. That driveway, of course, will have to be reconfigured and built to town specs relative to width, pavement typology, base, etc. It does not currently meet the town code and certainly wouldn't meet the requirements for a commercial development. We noted we're underway with fire department review. Retaining walls, there will be some retaining walls on this property. It's a pretty steeply sloped property. Our retaining wall limitations are 6 foot for a single retaining wall or 2 5-foot tiered retaining walls. It looks like at conceptual review, it looks like the tallest wall we have would be 8 feet. So it looks like we can probably make that work with no major issues. You could scroll down just a little bit, Alicia, you get to open space and parks. We have not discussed any open space or park dedication. Again, that might be something that is really trail connectivity up to some of the trails above claim that we're working on with the post committee, the Parks Open Space and Trail Committee. So that might be an opportunity to connect the residents up there or this commercial up there so that biking and walking into this area for those in claim and potentially shoreline, making those connections might be some logical open space trail connections. We don't, with regard to architecture and design standards, we don't have any heights or anything. I think Rick Otto, they may have some heights indicated, but in the conceptual review we did, we haven't done any analysis of heights or anything like that, but the design you saw looks to fit in pretty nicely with the town of Hideout. And so we'll continue to evolve that, working with the applicant and the architects. If you scroll down just a little more real quickly with regard to this project, down the road, we'll have to do a rezone. A rezone would need to be in compliance with the general plan. You can see there some of the requirements in terms of vision statements for the general plan, creating a neighborhood atmosphere, connected community. Again, that's that trail access, but connected also by allowing people to have nearby commercial is a component of that, preserving the views. This project would take full advantage of the views. That would be the intent. The economic goals, certainly sales tax revenue is a goal of the community, of any community, and this project comes with that. So just as a very cursory review, it appears that what is being proposed, the mixed use concept with commercial down front, does comport with the Hideout general plan. And then we've got a recommendation is simply for you all to please review this project. If you have any questions, please ask me or the applicants or their consultants and give direction for next steps. Remember, at concept plan review, you don't make a formal vote. It is really a head nod and informative kind of meeting for the applicants to pursue the next steps. That's
Do
all.
we have to?
Question.
Sorry, do we have to vote on changing the zoning?
You will have
mixed
to vote
use?
on changing the zoning. That would be a separate application that would be publicly noticed. This concept plan is not publicly noticed. It's just a kind of a cursory review for the applicants to present something to you. If they don't get generally a favorable head nod, that's probably an indication that they wouldn't pursue rezoning. If they do get general and favorable information, then they would pursue that. But yeah, that would be a full-on vote for a favorable or negative recommendation by you all to the town council. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. The town should adopt a set of commercial or mixed use standards that will ensure quality development for any commercial development. Is that something that we would propose to the council?
That would be something I think that you would propose to council and council would ratify that. Yes, typically when you've done rezonings, they've come with a master development agreement that typically incorporates that, some sort of DRC, a design review committee, or a set of standards that indicate the floor, the lowest level of quality that you're willing to accept with that rezoning. You've typically done that with all of the rezonings to date.
Okay, looking at the plan, last year when we looked at it, wasn't it two separate buildings? It looks like it's all one now. Is that the case?
I might let the architects jump in here, but I think, yeah, it did change a little bit. It's almost kind of 2/3 buildings connected by a plaza, but I think I might turn it over to Rick and his team. I can't see exactly who's there, but Rick?
Go ahead, I'll let Jeff Johnson.
Oh, Jeff's there. Okay, good.
Okay, so if you could go to page 4, which is the this overall site plan of the commercial.
All right,
There, page 4.
Keep going. Oh,
How many page numbers?
Sure.
on
9, try.
Nine.
so.
Nine?
You, whoa, you passed it.
Oh, sorry.
There you
This
go.
one.
There it is.
Okay, so, yeah, the original concept that you saw a year ago had another building located over by, to the north over there, closer to Wolf's property. So that's over there, where it says exception 10. That was, it was further over than that, actually. But, that might still be developed at some point. We don't know yet. But right now, the current project has two separate buildings with a plaza between the two. There's an open space. And so if you can blow up this image and focus on the buildings.
That's not even-
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so here you can see the two buildings. The larger one is to the left, and to the right is the smaller of the two. So you can see the smaller one there, and then the plaza in the middle, and there's actually a deck that you can see in that elevation that we can look at here in a minute, and the second building. So that comprises of the approximately 15,000 square feet of retail space. With the parking, we're actually, parking wise, we're about 10 parking spaces over what your zoning requires. And we're actually looking for more parking if we can get it.
And are they all above ground, correct? Nothing's underground?
That's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Yep. So if you want to go up a little bit to that elevation page you had earlier, you can kind of get a sense of where these buildings are separated. There you go. So there you can see the first building on the right, then separated by the plaza in the middle, and then the second building on the left-hand side.
So I think this is the open area between the two, if we're looking at the building from 248, correct, Jeff?
That's right. That is right, yeah. And of course, we have this large deck that kind of connects the two buildings. We're thinking this would be a great place for, some outside dining or some kind of outside activity right in this area.
And then just to be clear, this section right here is kind of a balcony that is open for people to maneuver outdoors, as is this lower section as well, right?
That's right.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the site plan, looking down, there was a building B and a building C. Is the building,
And so in this image you're looking at here, building C is on the very far left.
just that little part, or both of those two little parts?
Over there, both little parts, yeah. So this image was designed before we started to work with the fire department. And once we did start working with the fire department, we needed to bring that building forward so that we could get the fire truck to go behind the building, as you saw on page 4 in this group of pages. So that would actually come forward a little bit. So it's kind of, if you squint, you'll see that this is fairly close to what we were trying to show in concept. So if you want to go to that site plan again, in the package. Yeah. So building C used to be up where that parking space is, straight up on the page. So we brought it down and joined it with the second building. So basically we have two buildings where we used to have three. It used to be up there, thank you. And there you go. We moved it down and connected it there. And all of that was through meetings with Clint at the fire department. And we needed to get the second exit. And obviously that driveway needed to go all the way through to get that exit to work.
Okay.
I had a question, this is Donna. The land on the left where, originally, if I remember correctly, like Glynis had mentioned, it was more moved up to the larger piece of land up there. Is there a reason why it seems kind of scrunched down? You have all that land up,
Up above the access road to Wolf?
yeah, right there. Right there.
Right.
I mean, is that buildable, or is there a reason why, it was all down closer to right on 248? I mean, would think that it would be more aesthetically pleasing to be up a little higher and back off the road a little bit more, but I mean,
Donna, I could
I
jump
like,
in here a little bit and help out, and then certainly their team should jump in. Part of the challenge was when it originally came in, we didn't have a second access point up there, kind of that curvilinear road that you see heading up. We didn't have that, but through discussions with the fire department, Clinton in particular, that is now a requirement. So much of that land is actually going to get dedicated for that road up there, and the slopes up there are pretty steep, and so there will be some retaining walls
Okay.
and land movement. So there may be some space, maybe like in maybe this area for potential future buildings, but it might be something smaller than was envisioned before, just because this road wasn't a part of the initial proposal.
Mhm. And the decks, that you have, the balconies there, are they large enough to have tables out there? People sitting or,
Yes, they are.
okay, so how wide are they then? I mean, I can't really tell from this drawing.
Right.
10 feet, 20 feet?
Here, I'm gonna put a scale on a drawing here and let you know.
Okay.
So the plaza space between the two buildings is 30 feet.
Okay.
So, and then if I measure the entire up and down, well, not up and down in this case, but then, so that's 30 feet. So if I go the other way from front to back, it's 36 feet. On each side where we see those windows, so that sticks out 10 feet from that wall surface. And please keep in mind that this is just an early concept. And obviously this needs some refining. We need to get the building in the right configuration to match what we're now seeing on the site plan. And we would like to spend a little bit more time creating some more detail on this building, and the decks could be a big part of that.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
This is Tim speaking. Just, our intent right now, as Jeff just said, was get the initial concept laid out. But the decks, without a doubt, strategically are going to be a focal point. They have to be big, they have to be beautiful, they have to be very, comfortable for people in both seasons. So we're going to be working on all that.
Right. Okay, that's what I was concerned about, because on the picture here, it's kind of hard to tell. They look pretty narrow.
Yeah, it
and
is.
small.
Yeah.
And also, I believe on the plan, if you go back to your plan, next to building C, it looks like a decent sized deck out there.
Yep.
Off toward that lane, off toward the north.
Yes.
So I do like that right there. Yeah.
Around, yeah, and that's not really illustrated on that elevation yet.
What was that again?
That deck there is not illustrated properly on that elevation we just looked at. And that has to do, of course, with this recent version of this footprint.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I believe we need to, give attention to the decks and make sure that they're large enough and like you said, aesthetically pleasing, and they're looking at the views. I think that would be a great highlight.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing this last year and really liking the plan. Partially because the parking is you can't see the parking from the road. It's behind the building. I really like that. It does look like you could use more parking. Because, I think it could be a really popular place.
We hope.
And, in the last plan too, I think there was, there were, I don't know if there were apartments or housing for maybe the people who worked in the retail. Is that still part of the plan or no?
No, we took the original plan we presented had some condos on top of one of the buildings. There was like 3 or 4 units, and we decided to segregate and really work on the professionalism of a neighborhood commercial. And then all of our residential is now going to be in the 13 acres.
Yeah, and that would have made the parking situation even, I mean, that would have affected the parking if we had permanent residents that were living there. So we completely agree with you that we were trying to maximize the parking, and we will continue to do so because I agree. We can always use more parking.
Yeah, I'm not sure I heard what you said because it was muffled.
She was just saying that one of the considerations or reasons we moved it out was the parking. There was going to be permanent residents parking cars and having guests and things like that in this retail space, and it just didn't make sense.
So Thomas, I guess what we have to, or the town has to figure out is what is town-owned land versus claim land for that intersection, correct?
That's right. So we're coordinating, Polly and I are working through this with regard to this piece down here to ensure, to confirm that this is something that we can work with the applicants to do. If it's not us, it may end up being claim. We're pretty certain it's us, not claim, but that is something we're working through. Yes.
Okay, and then Wolf Road would also need to be enlarged, widened. Is that, did you say that as well?
Yes, Wolf Way, the driveway up to the house right now, that is just a driveway. That would have to be built to town standards. And that is something that the developer is prepared to undertake. That would also ensure that as you get to the north of this site, or the future development that would be the residential development, that would ensure that those folks have a town compliant road for ingress egress
That was
down
my
to 248.
That was my next question, if the developer is going to cover those expenses. Thank you.
Have the Wolves been appraised of the potential commercial
Yes,
going in?
we met with them several times. I've sent him the plan, and he's good with it.
So looking at the plan, I would think that we would need a traffic light at the entrance. How do we work with UDOT, and what's the process of how that would?
So we have a corridor agreement with UDOT that I think we entered into in 2019, and it indicates that there are a couple of locations along 248 within the town boundaries of Hideout where potential lights could be located. This is one of those locations, but I would say that working with UDOT is always interesting, right? And I would also say that they tend not to be out front. They tend to be a little bit more reactive. So I think before we would end up seeing a light here, we would have to see the development in place, and then they would start to gauge AADT, the average annual daily traffic count. So it may be something that that they jump on more quickly than not. I suspect it will not be that case. And so to your point, we would work with them as this gets underway to see if we could get maybe a light sooner than later.
And Thomas, just correct me if I'm wrong, but UDOT would make the final decision as if there's a light there or somewhere else, correct? It's not the town or us.
100% correct. They will make the final decision, yes. Yeah.
So if, and that, the next triangle property where we're looking at for the, fire station, et cetera, wouldn't that, because it's a fire station, require a light?
We've met with UDOT, which is always interesting as well. And I don't think that there would be a light. There is a chance that there could be
Flasher.
not a hawk beacon, yeah, almost like a flasher or beacon hawk, I think they call it, where when the fire trucks were called to an emergency, those flash and would stop traffic. I don't think it would be a formal stoplight. It would just be the flashing lights.
Okay, yeah, the only reason I asked that was potentially, could this be connected to that so that there would only have to be one light, but
In an ideal
That's
world,
not-
yes, but the answer, given the topography and the distance here, is no, that one wouldn't work for this particular site. It's too far. It's a little north of this site and just north of Bill Wolf's property. And so it would be a different configuration.
okay.
Do any of the commissioners have any other questions for Thomas or the developers?
Mhm.
At this point in time, would any of the commissioners object to letting the developers know that we are in favor of this and would like them to proceed and go forward and work out the issues that, as they've been stated?
Definitely,
No objection here.
no
Go for it.
objection. I think it's one of the better plans we've seen thus far.
Agreed.
Can we take a
Gentlemen,
vote?
do you have any other questions for us in regard to this? And ladies, I'm sorry, throw them in.
Make a comment that from the moment we met most of the folks, the city, there's been great support. Thomas has been outstanding in pulling this thing together. We brought on some more expertise in Jerry. He's on this call, but you'll see him as the plan continues. And of course, both Rick and Jeff on the architectural side. So it's a joint venture kind of property or project. And you know, I hasten to say also remember in that residential, my wife and I are going to live on the top lot. So we're all in.
And just out of curiosity, if it gets to the point where the town council approves all of this, how soon after that are you guys ready to stick a shovel in the ground? Just out of my own curiosity.
Well, if I might have Jerry add to that, but the point is that we want to get a shovel in the ground soon, especially getting the 13 acres laid out on the sites. Because there's revenue to be had and then there's investment and so forth. So we have a complete waterfall of when money comes in and investment goes out. And we're hoping, I mean, if we had to put a pin in it, we hope to have a shovel in the ground in the next 18 months. Is that about right, Jerry?
I would say that's less than aggressive. I think we can do it a lot sooner than that. Once we have all the entitlements from the city and final approval from council, we're working in parallel path with the development of the road going up to Bill Wolf's property. And when we improve that, we'll also begin the first portion of the road going into the residential. So we will be feeding both sides of the development at the same time, the commercial piece here as well as the single family home lots. In terms of the design effort and all of that, I don't want to speak for our architect buddies here and our civil engineer out of turn, but we anticipate and our schedule is that we will have those things completed well before the end of the year and pricing from contractors So as soon as weather provides for us to do that, near the first quarter of next year, I think we'd start moving earth and doing things for the road. Foundations would probably follow a little bit later than that. But we'd be open by 18 months from now, Tim, in the commercial.
That's what I'm hoping.
When might we see the single family home concept plan?
Thomas, we've presented that. I think you have a copy of that. We're still working on the site layouts, but we have kind of narrowed it down to acre lots, give or take a little bit. There are 9 or 10 of them so far right now, and utilization of all that site is actually pretty nice. Each of those lots will be on sort of 3 different terrace levels, if you will, of the hillside, all with spectacular views, sort of accommodating the city's, you referenced it earlier here, Thomas, but expectations of your general plan, that there's, preservation of the views. And we're nearly done with that. We're working on the civil engineering side of it in terms of we know which way the road has to go, where the utilities go now. We're working with JSSD, with the fire department. And I think we'll be able to share a lot more detail of that when we get into the zoning presentation for this first, the commercial phase.
Okay, I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, like 9 or 10 single family homes? Is that
Right.
correct?
9 or 10 lots, exactly, right.
That's kind of what
Oh,
they're
that sounds
looking at.
good.
Do you, Alicia, do you want me to share just a really quick kind of image of what
Yeah, if you
is
haven't.
very general? If you let me share, I'll just share this with the planning commissioners. We're jumping ahead a little bit.
That's great. Do it.
And while Thomas is doing that, again, I'll give you my Diane, our viewpoint. Strategically, it's going to be a high-end estate community, and we plan on gating it.
So you can see down here is, of course, the development we were just discussing. This has changed a little bit because now we do have the ingress, egress, I should say fire access road that now comes up to here. So there's a connection here, and there would be a connection here. Then this would snake up here and potentially, yeah, maybe up to 10 or so houses, kind of some, I'm not drawing these terribly well, but kind of get the idea. And then you've got Tim and Diane right up there. That's the whole plan. We have some steep slopes and things to overcome, water flow, fire access, the radii on the kind of the switchbacks for the fire trucks. We have some challenges, potential need for a temporary or a breakaway gate connection into claim. We have a few things to work through, but yeah, that's kind of the idea. That's a sneak peek.
So I'm not sure who asked the question, Donna, if that was you or whomever on the committee. We've engaged a civil engineer who's been working on this along with Otto Walker, our architects, for some time. And most of Thomas, you did a great job there of laying out sort of pretty closely where those lots are. But the topography is challenging, and the roadway has now been engineered just as it shows there to accommodate those 9 lots. So.
Nice.
Yeah, this is Joel. I have a quick question. With it being a gated community, how would you feel about trails, hiking trails or bike trails in your community?
Tim, I'm going to answer for you. I think we're all over it. We're outdoors people and
Absolutely.
hikers and skiers, etc. So of course, and I think the target buyers of the homes would embrace it as well. It's part of our commitment to them to have that, pick up the nature of the community and the area there. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? There being none, I believe that concludes this item on the agenda. Gentlemen, I hope to see you next month again, because you worked out everything with the fire marshal, so we can keep moving forward with this.
We look forward to that too, and thank you for your help thus far, and Thomas's, of course, with, especially in discussions with the fire department. They've been good so far. They still have some outstanding questions we need to get through, but we understand and appreciate the city support in navigating through those. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have, do we do a formal motion to adjourn? Not yet.
Not yet.
Can I ask one question? We had talked about going through the, general, was it the general plan? Either to see if we wanted to update anything or just to familiarize ourselves with it better. Is that something we would do during a meeting? Would we schedule a separate time for that? Or we
That
thinking
might,
about that or?
that might be better addressed once we know the final
Of the
outcome of
annexation?
the annexation.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
then we will know what we can or will be going forward with, and still might not be.
Okay,
And if all goes well, hopefully we can have a bit of a discussion. I think we would carve out some time at one of your regular planning commission meetings, maybe go through the public hearing items first, and then if, you know, we carve out whatever time we have left, 10, 20, 30, 40, an hour, to go through some of the general planning issues. I hope that we're able to maybe do that as early as next month, hopefully.
Also, Thomas, it might behoove us to revisit the what's been agreed upon at the annexation in regards to the annexation, because a lot of people on the commission now were not on the panel when it was approved. So
That's
they know
So
what we
just-
have to go forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just as a reminder, the planning commission back, I guess that was 21, 22. I can't remember exactly when it was now, but the planning commission did make a favorable recommendation for that annexation and the annexation concept plan. And so that is what was adopted and ratified by council. And then subsequent to that, of course, it went to litigation. But that plan is pretty thorough. It's pretty robust. It's pretty definitive in terms of density, what the agreements were. Not to say that that the applicant could have come back and revisit it with you all, but it was a pretty well thought out plan.
Yeah, I think I was the only one here. Are we here too?
I think
Yeah.
John, it was just you and I.
Yeah,
Too.
Yeah, I would love a review if that was possible.
thought it was excellent, excellent.
yeah, because wasn't Jerry the chair at that point?
Yeah, Jerry was the chair, but for most of those meetings, actually, no, Ralph was, because
Ralph
Jerry
was.
had left, and then Ralph was the chair then.
Okay,
That
I
being-
move that we adjourn the meeting.
Is anybody second?
I
I,
second.
s-
Then we'll take a vote, Shana?
I second.
All right, then we'll.
Oh,
take-
yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Chase,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
And I will try, to get a copy of the concept out to everybody in a week or two. Of the annexation agreement,
You have to catch.
That'd be great.
just so you can have some kind of idea what the heck is going there. Or allegedly going there.
But this is the new